Well, good morning, everybody. This Monday morning, 13th of November, we celebrated Veterans Day yesterday here at the church pastor, and I got to see some video pictures of a church I pastored a few years back and their Veterans Day celebration, and was very sad to see the low attendance at the church that Trish and I had put so much effort and time in the right at 5 years we were there to grow it to, well, when we left, 250 to 300 people when they attended church. That's where they came. And to see the low attendance scattered around that new auditorium that we built prior to leaving there, it just grieves you. It really grieves you as a pastor who went there with 12 people July 1st of 2015 and left, as I say, with between 250 and 300 people that when they came to church, that's where they came, maybe even three and a quarter. 2 services, new building, brand new parking lot, all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that I think the church did wrong there, and not intentionally by any means, we left a lot of really good, knowledgeable, God-loving, Christ-honoring people there in different positions. They were capable. They knew what they were doing. But what they did, they called a fella to be their pastor that was a youth pastor for 20 years, had never pastored a church. And unfortunately, he was not a man of wisdom. He was a man of ego. He and his wife treated those adults as if they were children in a youth ministry. They ran off good people who were, my estimation, very accomplished in doing ministry, and took their ideas, claimed them as their own, and ran with things instead of delegating and giving people the space and the authority to do what God gifted them to do. And I've seen that over the years. I've seen that happen many times where I would go into churches that were dysfunctional, had problems, issues, low attendance, hardly anybody left hanging on, and build a body of believers that were very self-sufficient. And in this case that I'm referring to, and it didn't go without problems, and I'm not saying there weren't people there that didn't like the way I did things, but the church grew. And I didn't treat people like children. We had some very good deacons. This guy, when he came in, ran some of the deacons off. And they weren't men who thought they ought to run the show because I trained them not to. It's just really sad that people, men, supposedly men of God, would not have the God-given sense to stay out of the way instead of being a ramrod and a little dictator thinking that you come into a ministry with a brand new building, parking lot, the whole thing. How do you think it got there? By someone snapped their finger, wiggled their nose? How do you think that happened? Because of good people doing what they were led to do by a pastor who kind of knew what he was doing. great children's ministry, great youth ministry. Probably our weak link would have been the music ministry. And we had some issues there with some of the people in the leadership in the music ministry thought they needed to do the music ministry the way they wanted to do it, when I was convinced we needed to step up another notch and not be wearing jeans or jeans with holes in on the platform on Sunday mornings. But I had people who, yeah, they thought they should and thought it was okay, even though when they went to work, they weren't allowed to do that at work because they were in public eye. So there were problems, but yeah, this guy just blew up a good church. And maybe they have 100 now, maybe, I don't know. Some of the good people bit their tongue and swallowed their egos to let this youth pastor come in and run adults like you would youth and pay him 80,000 plus a year to do it. It just grieves me. I was in Pahrump, Nevada. Happened in Bedford, Pennsylvania. Started church there in November of 1990. We're running between 200 and 250. Took a church in Pittsburgh from there. And they called a guy from North Carolina. And he came in and promptly ran that 250 down to about 40 in 6 months. Because he was a quote unquote Reformed Baptist. Stopped Sunday school, said no more Sunday school, no age graded. They all need to sit in, let me tell them what to do and teach them. Canceled the Vacation Bible School, did away with visitation. Churches, you need to be careful on who you call. Now here's what happens. And really in that town in Nevada, there was nobody there in the town that could have, in my estimation, come in and taken that church and grown it. And the guy they got from Texas didn't do that either. Again, he was a youth pastor for 20 years. Churches, beware. Don't set age limits, which is really what happens. Well, we think we need a 40 to 45-year-old or a 40 to 50-year-old with kids. Really? That's what you need, really. What you need is a brain. What you need is a spirit sensitive to God's leading. All the surveys, all the studies, George Barna, Win Arn back in the day, Elmer Towns back in the day, all these church growth people say that the best, most effective time in any pastor's life is in his 60s and 70s. Oh man, he's way old. No, you again, use your brain. Moses was called at 80. By the time the pastor hits 60, he should have some wisdom. He should have some experience. He should have the ability to deal with people and situations and personalities. He should have a team building spirit or ability to do that. But these churches, oh, we need a young guy to reach young people. No, you don't. You need a person who can handle people, can get a team together, delegate, let people work in the area and abilities that God has gifted them. That's what you need. And with the pastor, the wife is very important. If she's a homebody, if she can't be away from mama and always wants to be around mama, don't call that person. That is never going to work. It's a team, although you don't get a twofer. When you call the pastor, the wife doesn't play the piano, sing specials, teach kids class, do a ladies ministry, work in the kitchen, clean the church, and all this other stuff too. You're calling a man. Unless you're going to pay twice the amount. And the other funny thing that I really think is so funny, I've seen these and I try to keep up with it just because I do. I like church growth. I like to see what churches want. Churches want everything: song, dance, bag of chips, and they want to pay as little as possible. And every time they want a person with an MDiv or a doctorate, minimum a bachelor's from some Bible college or a master's from a seminary. And they want to give them 2 weeks vacation, $400 a week, and want them to do hospital visitation, in-home visitation, members visitation, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Sunday school, Wednesday night, and that's for starters, and weddings and funerals. Boy, you church people need to get a life. Well, there shouldn't be in it for the money. Well, then you ought to go quit your good paying job and take a job that pays less and requires more. The average, a pastor, senior pastor, or solo pastor should get paid is the amount that the superintendent, if it's a senior pastor, or the principal of your high school, the administrator of your high school, gets paid in your town or your area, with their benefits, not just their paycheck, but don't forget their health and all the other perks. You want a guy who's been in ministry 20, 25 years to come for, I don't know, 40,000 a year and 2 weeks vacation? I wouldn't do it. If I'd be talking to a church today and they said, we'll give you 2 weeks vacation, oh, no. You'll give me 4 weeks vacation and 2 weeks to preach at other churches. Yeah, I'm not starting out brand spanking new. I've got too much experience and knowledge. And so here's the problem with Baptist churches. Well, Lord, you keep them humble, we'll keep them poor. And anytime there's an issue with funds in the church, you either want to cut the missionaries or you want to cut the pastor's pay. You bunch of snakes. Oh, we can't afford. No. You each need to belly up and put $20 a week more in the offering, or 25 more a week, each family in the church. And the pastor can do that too. But to put it all on the pastor or all on the missionaries because you're too cheap or faithless to do it, no, that doesn't work. So now getting back to it. A smart church values experience and wisdom over their perceived false notion that a young pastor is going to get young people. Not so. A young pastor could be looking at his time with you as a stepping stone to a bigger church, the next church. An older pastor could be looking at you as that's his last place of ministry in this life. So he's going to dig in, train people, so that when the Lord takes him, the church just continues moving on. You've got to use some wisdom in that. You need to pay the pastor that you're calling as much as you possibly can. Plan it out for a year, plan it out for 2 years, but you need to pay him as much as you possibly can. One of the things about the church in Nevada, and it could have been a deal breaker. We were in Idaho at the time, and I got a call from their person on their search committee, and it came down to we went, visited, and kind of felt the Lord leading, even though I was fighting the leading because I didn't want to go to the desert. I like snow and cold weather. And one of the last conversations with the chairman of the search committee, he said, well, how much would you be willing to come here for? What's the least amount you can take? And I talked with Trish, and it's like, I guess we could try to cut back and get by with 35,000 a year. And where we were making 52. When we got there, we found they had over $120,000 in the bank. What kind of a impression do you then think that gave me? Oh, well, brother, if you were spiritual, that wouldn't have mattered. Oh, really? Really? Bible says the laborer is worthy of his hire, not to muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn. They that labor in the gospel are worthy of double honor. Where's your faith? Where's your spiritual gauge and mindset? I wasn't in it for the money, or I'd have told him no. But I didn't go up much in pay until one of the men of the church who had pastored another church in that town that went he had some issues emotionally and health wise, and he kind of was booted. Power play in his church, and a younger guy kind of took it over. Really did him wrong, but he talked to the budget committee and told them that they needed to work on a better salary package because I was making less than any other Baptist church pastor in town. He happened to know that. So, they upped it to a fair amount. But I remember the last budget meeting when we had put in our church, I guess, bylaws that all the staff should get a 3% raise minimum every year for cost of living. And the same guy that was the head of the search committee, when they called me, looked at me and said, oh, you're okay with your pay now, right? We don't need to give you a raise. Well, what are you going to say? No, I'm not. I said, yeah, I guess it's okay. Yeah, sure. And then this new guy that came in, first year he was there, they put him up over 80,000, which was a considerable more than I was making after right at 5 years. People, don't do your pastor wrong, and don't expect him to work for nothing or for free. Have a plan. If you really truly can't pay much to start out, that's fine. But as it grows, give him increases. Start paying his family's insurance. Make sure you give him car allowance or mileage. Start adding these things that'll make a difference for him. God will bless you for it. He'll appreciate it. And when it comes time for pastor appreciation, don't just get all the folks to sign a card and say, oh, here, we're just so thankful you're here. You're not. Tell everybody, pass an envelope, pass the card, say, hey, if you can, put a few bucks in it. And even if it's only $30 or $40, he'll appreciate at least the effort rather than just a card. Hey, we really appreciate you. Thanks for being here. People, in the world we live in today, if you're not going to show appreciation, you're trying to get them for the least lowest possible amount. You need to do things all along the way. You need to treat his wife. Some of the ladies of the church need to take his wife out to lunch periodically. Maybe you do that quarterly, maybe once every 6 months, but you need to do something to show if you do appreciate him, not just, oh, hey, yeah, nice to see you. You don't know what a pastor goes through. You don't know what he has to hear or listen to. And I'm always saying he because women aren't supposed to be pastors. That's biblically not correct. It's unbiblical. So anyway, I wanted to talk to you a little bit because it really grieved me to see that once really thriving, growing, booming church just brought low. It's a very sad thing to me. A youth pastor thinking he's just all that, and his wife all that. And I called him, the only conversation I ever had with him, I said, the people will love you to death if you let them. He ran a lot of good folks off. He hurt a lot of good folks who hung in there anyway. But I would say they don't have half of what we had there when we left. And he probably thinks, well, he got rid of all those, not committed. They were all committed people. They were faithful people. They were giving people. We had offerings between $7,000 and $10,000 every week when I left. When I got there, if we had 1,000 a week, it was good. Some guys just, their ego's way bigger than their abilities. So churches, be careful who you call. Guys who purport to be pastors, you say you're called to be, act like it. Delegate, train, mentor, turn ministry over to the people. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to equip the saints for the work of the ministry, not do everything, not oversee everything, not dictate everything. Anyway, it was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I wanted to keep it shorter. I didn't. I'll get back on to some theological topics here and continue to pray for Israel. All I can say is IDF, wipe out Hamas, wipe out Hezbollah, do what you need to. What they did was heinous in their raping and murdering of your women, of your children, the burning alive of people. Go get them, Israel. Support you. We support you. I support you. Anyway, churches, wake up. Do what's right. Have a plan. Work your plan. Be part of the solution. Help bear the burden. Don't put it on the pastor and missionaries. Work together to accomplish great things. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.